back. So this is part two of why shamans and medicine men are not searched out, and why we were bypassed in Sasquatch. So where I left off before was I was explaining about the two young Sasquatch that had taken my bike, and um, how their eyes, how large their eyes were when I excited them, and that really, stuck to me for a long time during my life. It's something I remember, getting that close to those young ones and seeing that. So back on my timeline, so we did from 71, from 70 till 78. I did 8 straight years, and then we went back to that campground. I think in 81, that was my ninth year in that area. But in like I said, in 1979 through 1990, we had the home in Spring Valley Lake. So that second part of my timeline is from age um, 13, 12, no, it was age 12 to 21 at that Spring Valley Lake. I spent another, 8 years um, running into the type 2, which are, like I said, the um, have the different bodies. They don't just have one shape. They can look like gorillas. They can look like chimpanzees. They can look like people. Um, so those type twos are really have a wide variety of look. So now I spent that 8 years there with them, and during that 8 years, I had the 1 hour encounter, which was my longest one there in the riverbed, and then I had my two encounters. I had a double encounter. The time I was chased out of the forest by the two gorilla-looking ones. Then the opposite side of the riverbed there, I get my fourth encounter. It was on the opposite side of the riverbed where the tree line started again, and there was a little pond in there, and I was crawling, kind of cutting my way, macheting into that spot, and I came across a female with two young, and that's the first time that the type two hit me with the what do you call the scopathesia, the fight or flight feeling cast upon you. They hit you hard with that. So she hit me with that, and I just kind of like I felt it, and then I just brushed it off, and she was like, then she got really upset, and then I got it that she was upset, and I explained to her, I'm leaving. I understand if you don't. I don't want to bother you or your children. And I turned and I left. And so that was three, and then the mother and the two children. So that's six already now that I run into during probably the first 4 years at Spring Valley Lake. Um, and then we'll see the last one there. Okay, so that was it. That was all my encounters. There were six there. I saw six in that riverbed. The big one that I saw, um, the Sentinel, the big one that had the 1 hour, I seen him, like I said, several times before. So I don't count him as other Sasquatch, but you could say that you could add more encounters with that group, but it was with the same one, so I don't add it as more Sasquatch. So I ran into six there that I saw. Like, okay, now the mother that I saw with these two kids, she was identical to Patty, just like your Patty. Didn't have the long dreadlock hair. Didn't have the gorilla barrel chest. Just was a Patty. And the kids I didn't really see other than she had them behind her, and she kept pushing them back. And they were real small. They must have been, I don't know, they were small. They were within a year, 2, 3 years. They're small. Um, so that's what she was freaking out on me, but that time. So I've seen six there. Now, up the riverbed, this is the same riverbed. If you follow the riverbed up, and most of the year they're going to be in the San Gabriel Mountains in a place called Silverwood Lake, Wrightwood area, that group. So I know that that's the same group that lives up in Wrightwood. They just travel the riverbed. It's like 12 miles up the riverbed and back down to this area. So I had two more sightings of different ones, but from that same group. These two were juveniles, about, I couldn't tell how big they were because the first one was down. The first one was down on all fours when it ran up. I saw it run up through a tunnel, like through a brush tunnel that they have. Um, and then the second one, it just came flying. Now this is the second one. We had our RV. Um, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. This is Miller Canyon in Silverwood Lake. On the far side of Miller Canyon, they've closed it now, and I'm going to go into that detail a little bit. On the far side of Miller Canyon, there's a road that comes down into a cul-de-sac, a dead end, and it turns around and goes back out. And people use that to park to fish down there in Miller Canyon, right? Um, so that we had the RV parked right here in the northern part of the cul-de-sac, and I had left the door open. We were about 100 yards from it, down a ravine to some right by the lake there. You could see parts of it through the trees and brush, and there was no other. There was one other car there fishing by us, but there was nobody else around. We were going back and forth, getting a soda, getting a sandwich throughout the day to the RV. So I'm going back, and everybody's. It's my dad, I think two of my kids, maybe my mom. So the RV's parked up there. The door's open up to the brush up on the side of the hill. So I come walking around the back of the hill. I hear whistle, whistle. As I do, I see one flash, black flash. Like I said, he was on four going up through the tunnel of the brush. And then through the window of the RV, looking from the bedroom window, I saw another one jump out through the doorway and land through the tunnel. And then they both hook off the side. But that one, I couldn't tell the size of them. But they look like about the same size, maybe 6 foot, very chimpanzee-ish in build, probably. I didn't get a really good look at them. I couldn't say how their build was, actually. But I would say in size, I guess in stature, they would have seemed like chimpanzees or about that size, 5'5". Um, so those are the same group, but 12 miles south of where our house was in the Mojave River. Now, there's another group of trees. I said that group was we moved from that area after some things happened. So here's the Mojave River narrows here behind Spring Valley Lake, and then if you go further up north, because the Mojave River is one of the only rivers that runs north. If you don't know, like the Nile River, the Great Mother, runs north, and the Mojave River runs north. So if you go north of Victorville, there's another big forest where the water comes up in the ground again, and that is called Oro Grande. So they will stay in Oro Grande during some of the summer months coming up. There's a lot of beaver, crayfish, cattails, wild boar, giant boar. If you go a little bit out to Barstow, they've got herds of wild burros everywhere, so they feed on those. So my 8 years, I having that house in Victorville and traveling and fishing the local areas, I ran into 6, 7. So that was eight visuals on type twos, and they were all black. They were all black, dark brownish black. Like I said, the one in the Sierras were all blonde or red, auburn. They just look like giant orangutans. Um, so that 8 years ended, and then so for me, I was about 20, and by the age of 20, I had spent numerous hours and hours with both types of Sasquatch. And I learned a lot because I learned way back before they got real popular, and a lot of places where there was a lot of interaction between people and Sasquatch have been closed now, or those areas have been developed, and those are and there's less communication between the in those areas. So now I'm going to get into is the government, how the government goes around that. I know in California, I'm not really particularly sure about the rest of the country. I've heard a few stories that are similar to this, but here in California, where the particular areas where I was trained during the 70s, that area is no longer campable. They shut it down. They don't allow people go in there. Period. Okay, so people ask me, "Can you get in there?" I've tried to get in there through the last 5 years, and every time you get to the gate, it's oh sorry, we can't let people down. Last year it got flooded. 2 years before that, the tram service wouldn't work. They don't have tram service down because they have a tram that runs down in the daytime. It's only like daytime, so now they shut down the tram for 2 years, and after they shut it down, now they said um, COVID came. But before COVID, they said it was rained out. So now here this year, last year they said COVID shut it down. They can't, it's been shut down for the last 5 years. You can't even go down there. The only way you can get there is to have somebody drop you off at the summit and hike down 9 miles to get into the area. So my main area or my type 1 contact where I serve is shut down. It's been shut down since about 1990, I believe. All right, so here in Southern California, where I've encountered them, um, I know of places here in Southern California where there was a lot of contact going on between campers and Sasquatch in the San Gabriel Mountains here. All those campgrounds are shut down. Oops. All those campgrounds are shut down. And the ones that are in lower elevations weren't shut down. This is something else that did. Campgrounds that were in lower elevations that had lots of contact in the evenings and stuff, they changed into off-road vehicle only at day access parks. So no night access parks, and you can only have off-road, and then they set up clear paths for you to drive around in the areas, and you can't go off the areas. And of course, with a big loud motorcycle, of course, you're not going to run into any Sasquatch because they're going to hear you coming a mile away. So say in this area where there were people camping all night long, and the Sasquatch were coming down and taking stuff from their campsites and all that, if they couldn't turn it into an off-road area, then they closed it down altogether. Okay, now there's other areas like Cogswell Reservoir Dam, where it was just a higher up dam in Azusa Canyon, and very little usage other than a few fishermen, but those fishermen were having contact. And then it kind of got out of control. So they shut down they put up a whole fence, like a half a mile. When you get to the top of the summit, you climb this like 8 mile trail, and the last mile and a half is almost like straight up vertical. It's a pain to get to. And then they have a fence at the top, so you can no longer get to that area. So like, I know this in California, they've deliberately, like I said, if they're higher elevations and they can't be used for off-road park or anything, they're shut down altogether. They're closed down those campsites. The ones at lower elevations, they've turned into day use, off-road only. It's sunrise to sunset, off-road, motorcycles, dirt bikes, quads, buggies, 4x4. And then other places, like I said, the government knows exactly what they're doing, and I've heard across this in California up north that the same thing has happened in what's happening down here in the San Gabriel Mountains. They've done in the Sierras, both mostly on the western side of the Sierras. In the Central Valley, a lot of that's gone on. When I just talked about closing of campgrounds in certain areas and closing of other campgrounds and turning them into off-road parks, day use only parks. So that's the way the government works like that. So we did my full 18 years, how I learned with the type 1s up north, and then how I learned with the type 2s. I am wanting to go back, and if I have to make that 9 mile track back down into that valley to meet those, my training family or the groups that I train with, I'm gonna have to make that trip very soon here within the next couple of years. I owe it to them, and I owe it to me to reconnect after like a 30-year parting with that group. That, like I said, they taught me a few. Well, they did. Like I said, when you spend 9 years, it doesn't matter what culture you are. They speak. You learn their language, whether they want you to or not. So people are asking me, Albie, what express. I've never really expressed or said any Sasquatch language. I've spoken it. on any video that I've done. Um, and the thing is, because it's been 30 years, and a lot of it is uh, it's just been lost. It's just lost. And there's a few things I do remember. I do remember the basic greetings and a few basic names that they had, and in the way they perform their speech, because they don't speak like us. They speak in kind of in phrases sometimes. Uh, Phrasing. They don't really have um, direct words. Everything's like in a phrase. Like we are here. We are strong. Um, Over there, many fish. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's like attachment. There's words to everything, and I don't know if they do that to make it easier for me, or it just, I don't know, but that's how things were done. So um, whenever I wanted them to come out in the open and greet them, this is for the Sierra dialect. This is their greeting, and it has two meanings, maybe three meanings, but because I've heard them say it during the chant during one of the games they play. I heard them do it a chant, and it was like almost the third meaning. But they say heard, like heard, I heard you. D, like the letter D, and hard, like something's really hard. Okay, so heard, D, hard. Now the way they pronounce it, I explain to people, um, they have a very heavy accent that is Norwegian or Bulgarian, heavy. So if you remember the chef from the Muppets, right? Heard. I hate to say it, it's not a joke, but their voicings are very close to that type of sound. So when you want to say "herdy hard" in their language, first of all, you have to bring it down very deep in the chest, very deep, because they they understand. They'll get it that you're doing it on purpose, deeply, um, to specifically speak to them, and that you already know how to do this. They understand a lot. So it would be performed like this, with, like I said, a Bulgarian Norwegian accent. Heard the horn, just like that. The first words heard, and then the and hard pushed out real high at the end. Um, and the second thing that a lot of people do, your typical whoop. Yeah, they whoop, they whoop, but they don't whoop like humans whoop. All humans whoop like this: whoop, 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 whoop. All right, whoop. They do it. What am I doing? On exhale. All right. Now in Sasquatch whoop, their whoop's different. And the reason why their speech is different is because I've told people on other videos, when they speak, they can speak on the inhale, and we speak mostly on the exhale. Well, we always do. We speak on exhale. Okay, now this is going to be a whoop in their language, okay? But to do this, I have to inhale, right? So I'm going to blow all my breath out. And then as I start inhaling, I will start whooping, and I will whoop, taking air in, okay? All right, so that the air was going into my chest, not coming out. All right, so now that's how they do it. They don't do it like we do, going whoop. They do it on the inhale. Whoop, whoop. You see how I did that? Now, so you have the first one was a long one. That long one was a call for help. The second one was a location. Here, here, here. Herdy hard is we are strong. We are strong, or we are here. Usually, you can use it with them in several different. Like I said, I heard they do it as a chant one time, in a game they were playing. Heard the horn. They repeat that over. Of course, it's like way deeper than my chest, but that's how it's performed. And then I said the whoops and other voicings are inhaled, and they're not exhaled. And I think that has a lot to do with how people think they talk real fast because they don't need to stop to inhale. They can start keep talking on the inhale. So it's and you can hear like when you listen to Mike Patterson's and he's talking to Nefertia, you can hear if you listen very closely, you can hear when Nefertia's inhaling a word and exhaling a word because he'll do it as going through a phrase. He'll inhale and exhale through one phrase, and you can hear that change, direction of wind, and the pitch change in the throat. You can hear that. Um, so all these Sasquatch, the type ones, they speak very well, um, and like I said, they have the type ones are very cool with people, humans in the high Sierras, but a lot of that area and a lot of those Sasquatch have been cut off from populations now. Um, there are areas I can locate other Sasquatch, but it's not the same group, and that same group might not show me the gratitude and the lifetime um, of understanding and relations between the group that I grew up with. I would sure, even if those 30 years, when you see somebody that's been 30 years, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you just leave off with the conversations and a hug where you were 30 years ago. It just continues. Um, so you know, I know for sure that I spent the 9 years with that. With it was I would play with the two younger ones, and then there were like three older males and the main older male. So those the main older male and the two, I guess, under him that were just fascinated by me, and they were just always with me. They were always talking to me. As soon as people, hikers came by, they would just step behind a tree or a bush. They'd quiet down. They walk by. They come back, speak to me again. Um, uh, so, like I said, when you have that much life with that type of them being as they are, this it can't be a way that they wouldn't forget me after this longer time. So, like I said, I owe it to them to go back to them and let them know what I'm doing for them here, and then and continue some more of understanding what I don't know because there's a lot I don't know about this. Well, the first thing I'm going to ask them about this shape shifting and cloaking and orbs because I never saw any of that with them. So I need to go and find out what's all this about. From what I'm told by my ET friends, that they saying it's other ETs mimicking Sasquatch that are cloaking and disappearing and using portals and disappearing in a flashlight. But I've never got to go to talk to the type ones and verify it. But some reason I do trust what the ETs are telling me because I know I've seen those ETs with that type one group. So I guess like I really don't need to get the validation from them, but still why not? I need to go back. All right, so we're gonna get back here to my beginning as we're talking about what so many of us are left behind and not not you know part of the large your community of podcasts. So we're gonna have we got four columns here at the beginning. All right, we got your researchers. They're doing their best to find out everything they can, and but like I said, when what they do is basically they look up to the second column to any guidance, right? And then you have these are your chance encounter people. They got one or two, sightings, and then they end up having a podcast show, and their ego grows, and then pretty soon they limit who comes on the show down to just chance encounters. So let me get to the third column, which are habituations. They live with, they are neighbors with, and they know all about them, a lot about them. They'll know more than most people will know. Um, my favorite one, and she's public, is Janice Carter. Janice Carter, love her so much. She is great. She is great. She's been through it all. She kicks ass. I love her so much. Peace, Janice. Okay, so the last column here is medicine man, shaman, trained with, work as mediators between Sasquatch and the human world, right? So you got those 4 columns, and you got some people, in podcasts, and some people that are the big names in the field, not wanting to, go into the 3rd and 4th columns. It's easier to brush them off as crazy, and instead of actually, having maybe to lose your limelight to them. So that's a big part of it. I found out that I can only do 30 minutes at a time. That's why my other video got kind of cut there. So not sure how long I need to set up a clock. But if you are want to know about more Sasquatch, I will be here. I'm doing stuff like this to assist everybody as much as I can. I want you all to know that I will do my best. And hopefully maybe in August I will be going back. If you have any questions, let me know in comments below, and I will answer them the best as I can. Heard the heart!